What's up, guys? Reynad back. This time I'm making a video to talk a bit about the new multi-class cards in the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan expansion and kind of my thoughts on it. It's just going to be another, basic rant video where I kind of give my thoughts on it, pros, cons, all of that. The set is shaping up to be just like so exciting, maybe the most powerful set I've ever seen just off the cards they've shown already. And yeah, I just want to talk a bit about the mechanic and how I think it'll impact the game. So before I get into all that, I just want to give a quick shout out to Amazon Coins, who sponsor me. They sponsor a lot of other Hearthstone streamers. It's a company that's really helping the scene a lot. They help all of us do this for a living. And right now they've actually got the biggest promotion they've ever had, where it's like close to 50% off. You can get 40 packs for $25. Which I think literally is 50% off. So for those guys that have never used the Amazon App Store before, now is the time because you need to have not done it before. It's only for new customers. But anyway, highly recommend you guys do this because it will give you a pile of dust for the new expansion. I'll leave a link for that right below in the description, and you guys can check out my other videos, which I'll also link, where I show how to do the whole process because it's a lot easier to just show you how to do it. Anyway, all that stuff aside, I want to get right into the multi-class card discussion, I guess, and how I feel about that mechanic. So I think that, Mean Streets of Gadgetzan as an expansion that's, based around these gangs in the city, this kind of mechanic really plays well into that from a flavor standpoint. And I think that, as much shit as I give the Hearthstone design team for the card design, I think that as far as the flavor design of the cards, the whole theme and the feel of expansions, they're far and away the best of any game development company I've ever seen. Every single expansion on the flavor of it, One Night in Karazhan included, which I fucking hate that expansion, but the flavor on it is on point. It feels the way Hearthstone should feel. They have a very good vision for that, and I think that this mechanic with multi-class cards really ties into the feel that they want and Mean Streets of Gadgetzan really, really well. So props to them on that. With that said, I think that from what the cards actually do, which is what on my low points on my stream I usually go on rants about, or high points depending on what you're into, this kind of hurts. Or I think it further exacerbates the biggest issue with Hearthstone card design, which I made lots of videos on this. People think oh, Reynad hates RNG, Reynad just hates all RNG, and that's the number one problem. When in reality, I've never said that in my videos. I say multiple times, there's very good RNG that needs to happen, and this is not going to be an RNG based rant. What I think is the actual number one problem with Hearthstone card design is class identity. I think that the new multi-class mechanic kind of exacerbates this issue of not having clear enough class identity. So what do I mean by class identity? So some of you guys might have played some Magic the Gathering or other card games, and those games have colors. Magic has colors instead of the classes, right? It has 5 different colors that you can mix and match. And each of those colors has a very unique identity. The game developers in Magic want every color to feel very different, to have defining attributes, and the Hearthstone developers also want this for Hearthstone classes, right? They want all the classes to feel different and have different themes. So in Magic, it's called the color pie. They want green to be about ramping and having big minions, kind of like Druid in Hearthstone, and they want the color black to be about destroying stuff, killing minions and discarding cards from hand. But then they also want all of these colors to have very clear weaknesses, things that these colors in Magic are never able to do. So, for a card that's strictly black, they don't want it to be able to destroy enchantments. That's an example of something they don't want a color to have access to. And they're very, very firm on not blurring the lines of that color pie too much. And you still see them do expansions such as Ravnica, which is probably my favorite. Ravnica and Time Spiral both are probably my 2 favorite worlds within Magic. Again, this might not apply to the Hearthstone viewers, but just bear with me. I'll tie it in. Anyway, Ravnica is an expansion that's all about these guilds and a big city, kind of like Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, and blurring the line between the colors and kind of having these duo colored or different factions basically. So Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, I see a lot of parallels there, and um, as good of a job as a game like Magic or like Shadowverse, I use as an example. I've been doing a lot of like sponsor streams for Shadowverse, but I actually think the card design is super on point for that game, and the class design especially is awesome because every class feels like super different to play. And this is the key thing I think Hearthstone can do a lot better at. So like with a game like Shadowverse, they've actually created different resources specifically only for one class, just so that it feels very different from the next class and the next class. So with Hearthstone, I think this is a bit of an issue. I think it's a problem that like a million classes have weapons, and a million classes have secrets, and a million classes have good healing. And as much as I love a card like Antique Healbot, which I love that card, it's almost better for the class identity argument to like never put a healing card that's that good in the neutral slot again, because you don't want Warlock necessarily have access to massive healing like that. Every class should have distinct weaknesses. And I know that a lot of people that play the game on Reddit, they see expansions, they're like, oh, I just want a rogue to have like a good healing card, so control rogue can be a thing, and I want this class that I play to have this thing that other classes have, you know? I want Druid to have a way to kill big minions. Like, I don't necessarily think that those are tools that the classes should ever have. Like, I think a card like Mulch, not because of RNG or anything, I don't think it's like a good thing to ever give the Druid class, ever. Big Game Hunter, I think nerfing Big Game Hunter is good because you don't want Druid to be able to compensate for that weakness of being like weak to big minions. Like, you want classes to have distinct weaknesses and distinct strengths because it makes them feel very different to play. And right now the main issue, not the main issue, but like what I think is like the number one issue with like overall card design is that all the classes play and feel like way too similar. You know, I think that Rogue is like the spell deck, but then so is Mage, but then so is like some builds of Druid now. Like Druid's the Arcane Giant deck, and you know, sometimes Shaman spell, but like it's just it's too similar in what multiple classes can do. And aside from the lack of counterplay argument, aside from the lack of decision making argument, and the I'm talking about Swashbuckler, Babbling Book, and Portals, by the way, right now. All the stuff I hate about One Night in Karazhan, with the exception of Barnes. I've made videos complaining about how a card like Swashbuckler is bad for the game as far as it discourages counterplay. It's the bad kind of RNG as far as it's like too high variance. It's not like a specific power level of card that it's drawing from, like Clockwork Gnome, which is, I think, good RNG, even though they're very similar cards. That stuff aside, I think like the 50th reason that a card like Swashbuckler is unhealthy for the game is that it further blurs the line between classes. You know, it gives Rogue access to things it shouldn't have access to. And as exciting as that is to get like this one highlight video where, oh my god, I pulled this flashy like 1 in 50 Tyrion and I played it and I won, and look at how cool that is. Like, yeah, that's great. Those kinds of stories are going to develop like almost regardless of what the pool of cards you're working with are. Like, you're going to get cool stories just through card games in general. But it's kind of, it just further creates that problem where like Rogue is now doing the stuff that other classes are doing, and Druid's doing the stuff all the other classes are doing, and every class just has access to like every kind of effect they could want, you know? Like Control Mage doesn't really have good healing, but as much as I love playing Control Mage, as much as I want good healing for that class, like it's almost better that way, that classes have distinct weaknesses. And I would just, personally, I would like to see Blizzard taking more of a step to making all of the classes feel more distinct. I want them to kind of emphasize weaknesses and strengths within classes and get them to actually feel different, you know? Like, no matter what class I play, it just feels like I'm trying to jockey for early game board control and then snowball that into a board advantage and then get a little bit of burst damage to finish them off. And that is just the game plan for too many decks, in my opinion. So all of this long rant, I've not mentioned the multi-class cards, but I think this like further creates that problem, right? Like, now the multi-class cards, they've actually done them in a really good way. Like, it's very tasteful. Like, it's very clear what the overall theme of those cards are, and it's not really giving effects to classes that they shouldn't have. But with all that said, I do think it's a bit of a it's a bit of a dangerous direction to go down. I think that when you have multi-class cards that are specifically made for like 3 certain classes, is that really that, like Injured Blade Master is like the example I use. Is Injured Blade Master, does it really matter that Rogue can use Injured Blade Master? It's already basically a priest card, maybe like a shaman card for the old school ancestral healing thing. It's already kind of a class card that's only tailored to a couple of it's already a neutral card that's only tailored to a couple classes, and I think that's true for a lot of neutral cards. So overall, do I think that this multi-class mechanic thing is a bad thing at all? No, I actually think it fits really well with the flavor and everything. I just think it's a good time to like bring up the discussion of class identity in Hearthstone and how I really think things should feel more different. I think a lot of the core mechanics, I think there's just not enough of them. I think they should go the route that other card games have gone and create like custom resources specifically for certain classes. Like, for example, in Shadowverse, which again, a lot of you guys don't care about these other card games, but I have to bring them up because I think there's things to learn from those games that I think are like doing well. In a game like Shadowverse, it has multiple classes, just like Hearthstone has the same mana system as Hearthstone, a lot of similarities. But then, like, for the classes, one of them is called Shadowcraft, and they basically created this custom resource where every time one of your cards dies, you get 1 shadow, and then you can use that shadow resource. You can like expend it to boost the power of your other cards, and it really just changes the way that you play the class. Like, you're encouraged to play a lot of death rattle effects, but not just because you play this random N'Zoth in your deck. It's because they're generating this resource for you that changes how you evaluate certain cards. Something like Harvest Golem is a lot better because since it dies twice, you're getting 2 shadow out of it, and that'll power up your other cards, and it just really changes how you play the game. And when I play Shadowcraft versus a different type of class in that game, it feels very different because one class is working with this resource, this other class isn't, and it's not just every class trying to get an early board lead and snowball that using different cards, which is kind of how Hearthstone feels, a little bit too much, I think. So, yeah, just in the future, I think like this time around it was done well. I would be really careful with blurring the lines between classes even more, Fire Blizzard, and I would like to see them emphasize weaknesses and strengths of classes a lot more. I don't think they should give Rogue a good healing card, as excited as people would be about that. I think Healing Wave, even though, sorry about the background noise, I think even though Healing Wave might be a card that makes sense for shamans in World of Warcraft, because I think they could heal in World of Warcraft, so you kind of make sense that shamans have healing. For a card game, it might be better to just leave that kind of effect out, right? Like, you might not want shaman to have access to healing. Maybe Halzeal is a mistake too for that reason. These aren't cards that are like oppressive or really dictating the metagame too much, but just like moving forward, I would like to see more clear-cut distinctions in what classes are good and bad at. So with Rogue, they seem to be going that direction a lot. Seems like they're pushing stealth. Seems like they're pushing... God, they made counterfeit coin, which is like... completely changes the game. But yeah, I don't know. Exciting time, exciting expansion. I'm really pumped for it. Just wanted to, I figured somebody should have the class identity discussion at some point. Let me know what you guys think about it. Yeah, I'm not going to reiterate myself for the 5th time. I guess I've kind of been rambling a lot and repeating myself, but appreciate you guys watching. I'll make another video for you guys very soon. Thanks so much, and yeah, remember, check out that Amazon Coins thing. I think the promotion goes on until December 7th, I want to say. Yep, December 7th. So you can try to catch it at the tail end, like when the expansion is released, maybe. I don't know if it'll be released before the 7th, but they said early December, I think. So we'll see. Yeah, long story short, appreciate you watching. Go buy some packs for half off. See you guys next time.
And so having the Gadgetzan on board, which means every time you play a spell to deal, maybe trade 1-for-1 with an enemy Zoom minion, you get another.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Keep on the answering.